சென்னை மாநகராட்சியுடைய எல்லையை விரிவாக்கம் செய்யப்பட்டது. இந்த விரிவாக்கம் செய்யப்பட்ட பகுதியில் தான் குறிப்பாக புறநகர் பகுதிகளாக இருக்கின்றன. தாம்பரம் பகுதியாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, பெருங்குடி பகுதியாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, மேற்கு பக்கம் ஆவடியாக இருந்தாலும் சரி.
Good morning, India. Good morning, humanity. I am reminding you the scenario, the worst eye view of Chennai floods. Chennai inundated recently with a heavy downpour from the sky. You would remember this. And now I go directly to the discussion. Now, my logic and the latest logic is Chennai flood man-made disaster, and NDTV discussed on this topic. I want to share it. It is loading. Paris Climate Summit and agreement is a fraud.
The same room.
Learn from Chennai how to create man-made floods.
But two different prices. Why pay more? Find your ideal hotel on Trivago. Because Trivago compares more than 150 websites. You can be sure
Paris climate so much so high might not make this universe better, and 2 degrees Celsius reduction in temperature would not make any difference to our destiny, as we have already pushed the buttons of cluster atom bombs. And now please look at this discussion. Chennai floods. Who is to blame? It is
a man-made disaster that was waiting to strike Chennai. Over the years, water bodies across the city have been filled up and built upon, often by politicians with interest in the real estate business, say environmentalists.
It is the realty business
no place for the rainwater
protected and promoted by politicians, the central and state government, all on the name of urbanization and industrialization. Urbanization has reduced industrialization into indiscriminate destruction, devastation of production system business, and it happened in Chennai.
Everything is mixed out, and we don't have any provision for the water to go out from here. And we have been paying the property tax, water tax, all those things have been paid, but no action has been taken.
A year ago, 61 were crushed to death after a high-rise building put up on a lake bed collapsed. I'm in knee-deep waters. Many blame it on successive state governments for converting water bodies like this into housing plots. Call it a blunder.
It happened in Kolkata also. The Salt Lake was a water body, and everywhere in the suburban the drainage has been damaged. In Kolkata there is no drainage. In every rainy season Kolkata is merged in water, and water has no escape route all over in Calcutta, it is Kolkata now. Kolkata and suburban areas. The place in which I live, Sodhpur, has the latest cemented multi storage buildings, jungle, and it has no drainage at all.
The same hotel, the same room.
It is the development and it is
Why pay more?
the industrialization.
Because Trivago compares more than 150 websites, you can be sure to find your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
I have been dealing this issue for long. Paris climate so much so high might not make this universe better, and 2 degrees Celsius reduction in temperature would not make any difference to our destiny, as we have already pushed the buttons of cluster atom bombs.
Water bodies across the city have been filled up and built upon, often by politicians with interest in the real estate business, say environmentalists. The result? During very heavy rains, there's no place for the rainwater to go. In the past, Chennai suffered frequent waterlogging. This time, close to 100 people are dead.
Now we'll learn our lessons, So it's going to be another big tragic situation in the future, which I don't think so we are ready to take. It's a wake-up call for us now, for the government bodies to come forward to preserve these water bodies.
Tyagarajan's dream home is built on a filled-up lake. This prime property is now surrounded by water, accessible only by boat. The family has moved.
It is the same story in Delhi, in Ahmedabad, in Mumbai, in Bangalore,
And we have been paying the property
in
tax, all those things have been
every city
has been taken.
in India, in Allahabad,
61 were
in Banaras.
after a high-rise building put up on a lake bed collapsed. I'm in knee-deep waters. Many blame it on successive state governments for converting water bodies like this into housing plots. Call it a blunder or collusion with developers. The city corporation showcases resumption of traffic on Chennai roads. But for people living in these low-lying areas, the nightmare would continue for a long time. In Chennai, with camera person Sukumar, Sam Daniels, Find Your TV.
I belong to the Himalayas and I have been flowing across the nation from Gomukh to Gangotri. Thus, I have been watching the merger of water bodies I belong to the Himalayas and I have been flowing across the nation from Gomukh to Gangotri, and thus I have been watching the merger of water bodies along with the peasantry into free flow of foreign capital and foreign interest to make in the doomsday. This destruction is the phenomenon of making in. This destruction is the phenomenon of making in. Chennai is the latest example. We have been watching the sea coast line encroached all the way, violating the Sea Coast Line Act, the Environment Act, the Forest Act, the Local Bodies Act, the Land Acquisition Act, and so many legislation available to protect the environment, sea coast line and the biocycle. And it is the root cause of global warming and climate change that has inflicted India and the humanity in this part of the globe. We have been watching the forests translated into luxury resorts. We have been watching all the green valleys and altitudes being attacked by monopolistic multinational capital to make it electrocuted because, for instance, Uttarakhand is energy province. Uttarakhand banks on electricity, and electricity plants are owned by multinational capital, and we have been seeing earthquake from Uttarakhand, Himachal
They've captured a unique way to blend art with science in these phenomenal time-lapse movies.
Pictures are the manifestation of that, and most importantly, they are the eyewitness evidence of how climate change is reshaping our world.
With 10% of the world covered by glacial ice, it's imperative that humans pay close attention to the warning signs they convey. Glacial melt is a significant contributor to sea level rise, one of the biggest threats climate change presents to modern civilization. In fact, scientists believe we may already be locked into 3 feet of sea level rise, enough to submerge hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Climate change can often be an abstract concept, making it tough for world leaders to justify the type of policy changes necessary to curb the emission of greenhouse gases. But images like these make the topic of global warming incredibly hard to ignore.
The Bello Medical Group.
There's one place that brings out the beauty in everyone. The Bello Medical Group.
Where you can find state-of-the-art beauty treatments from all over the world, matched with exceptional patient care, internationally accredited, trusted for 25 years. One of the leading authorities on beauty in
We have opted for big dams, Narmada, Tehri, Polabaram without any hearing. We have been weaving cemented hubs all over the embroidered quilt of environment, killing the biocycle and saving the tiger, burning the mangrove. We have been weaving cemented hubs all over the embroidered quilt of environment, killing the biocycle and saving the tiger, burning the mangrove. Now, over to Paris. Final draft of climate deal formally accepted in Paris. Nothing to celebrate, I won. United Nations event it is.
the Bello Medical Group.
There's one place that brings out the beauty in everyone. The Bello Medical Group.
I have been quoting Sundarlal Bhogna and let us listen to him. Ecology is permanent economy, the activism and environment philosophy of Sundarlal Bhogna. It is something else. Let us get it from here.
Will directly affect water sources. And today we are mining water, digging lower and lower, but the main sources are disappearing. So I feel that there should be some strategy to conserve.
Bimla is sitting beside Bhogna ji. Bimla ji,
Use of water.
the mother of our
Same.
friend Raju Nayan Bhogna.
So like what? But there should be the slogan.
This man has been warning about global warming and climate change since 60s and 70s, and we have not cared what he has been speaking about.
Wait for me for all year. Gandhi immediately replied, These are not going for my center room. So water is such thing which you cannot bring from anywhere. And some thinkers, they say that it's unfortunately just to take water back to the on the issue of water.
As a tournament. So there seem to have been sort of two different objectives of a past. Would you say that is it?
No, it is a righteous tactic. So reach the heart of the people.
So what if you were wrong? What is the assumption? Doesn't that fast come from the assumption that I am right and so my view should prevail?
We have shown it earlier.
It is bringing truth.
Now I go about
What?
Continuing the discussion on world affairs with Pete Santilli of the Pete Santilli Show. Pete, Paris Climate Change Summit is upon us. Apparently they're going to be calling for some emergency action. What are the details?
You know, it's emergency action, but of course we understand the pattern that the globalists operate. They call it the Hegelian dialectic, the problem-reaction solution. Of course,
exposing the Paris climate
they know
talks
what a reaction is to the
Fraud with
climate change
Santilli.
to cause fear, and then of course creating that emergency to usher in this huge emergency legislation that essentially they've been working on for 30 or 40 years. They've been having all these panels. They've even referred to some of the climate change data and some of the measurements that they've had indicating that we have a problem in the world with climate change. They've called it a fraud. Now this emergency is upon us. Something they've been working towards for 30 or 40 years, and this major emergency where they have to get this legislation in should be signed off next week. Little is known about the panels that have been put together with all these United Nations agencies and committees that have been formed. They all have an acronym for them, but they've all been convening over the past 30, 40 years. All of their reports will roll up to this Paris Climate Change Summit, and they're going to try to get consensus among all of the world leaders and sign off on this stuff. There's various elements of it, such as geoengineering, that they intend to discuss next month, and I've got some information about that as well.
Now, speaking of global leaders meeting, Vladimir Putin just came out and said that global warming is a fraud. A new study just was released stating that the polar ice caps are in fact increasing in size. So how do you think that those facts are going to be swept under the rug, if you will, at this next summit?
You know, I would say the main focus, based on my research, the main focus that we need to put on the fraud itself is that even knowing that some of the data is skewed, it's false data. It's been manipulated for the benefit of creating
the data used for the agreement are false data.
The biggest fraud that's taking place right now.
False data always used by the global world. And false data had been used for while war, mind you, and the war continues, mind you.
I would say that is the biggest fraud that's being perpetrated on the entire world.
25
I agree with Vladimir Putin.
million people were killed in Iraq, mind you, it was false data. And this agreement is based on false data, it is fraud.
What they're doing, and they're actually justifying the spraying. They're calling it solar radiation management, but they're essentially doing weather modification, spraying particulates into the air, changing the jet streams and the traffic flow per se of the weather patterns.
So are you saying that they're going to legalize chemical spraying in the air, chemtrailing?
You know, this is what I've read. Now, also, one of the foremost experts on geoengineering, his name is Dan Wigington. He told me, believe it or not, that the climate change impact of geoengineering over the past 65 years has actually made the situation even worse than what they're reporting with regular climate change data. They intend to essentially legalize, I'm anticipating they're going to do it at the Paris climate change.
It is all about legalization for investment.
But they will
Legalizing the pollution, legalizing the climate change, and legalizing the global warming. It was the agenda in Paris. Legalizing the pollution, legalizing the carbon emission, legalizing the global warming, legalizing the climate change, legalizing the ethnic cleansing. I am afraid to say.
Radiation management techniques such as, and they call it chemtrail spraying. Well, they're just calling it something different, and that's what they intend to, what I anticipate they will approve in the Paris Climate Change Summit.
Now, Peter, we've got so much to discuss. Let's jump over to your channel so we can break down the global truth movements. We can take a look at what's going on in the South China Sea. And folks, if you have not subscribed to Pete Santilli's channel, the link is in the description below. It'll also be on the card right after this interview, along with a link to get to it. So meet us over there at Pete Santilli's channel. We'll continue the discussion.
Truth about Paris Climate Change Conference.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it.
Hello, this is Dave Wigginton with geoengineeringwatch.org radio, Global Alert News for December 5th, 2015. Another week of planet Earth completely under siege. Not a metaphor, this is an absolute fact. From climate engineering happening above our heads, decimating the planet, to a long, long list of other decimating factors. A lot of data to cover today. I'll do my best. Probably won't get through it all. This is a commercial-free news hour of hard-hitting data and perspectives with no commercial interruptions. That would diminish the gravity of the information presented here. My goal is and always has been this, to trigger listeners to actually investigate the facts for themselves. I've never asked or wanted anyone to take my word for anything. Rather, it's our responsibility, each of us, to investigate all the unfolding events that will make or break our collective futures and the future of our children. On that note, at the moment, if we don't completely change our course, we're on a trajectory for certain near-term human extinction. I ask anyone, please don't believe anything I say. Investigate the figures on current species extinction, implosion of marine ecosystems, implosion of boreal forests, collapsing of global plankton stocks. Please simply investigate what I'm saying. If you don't believe this, and you continue to do nothing for the greater good, you continue to do nothing to change the course we are on and see what comes, the denial or censorship of reality will not save any of us. For the record, DVDs are available.
It is censorship and denial of the ground zero reality.
Giving one each to anyone that will put these DVDs to use and hopefully make copies to pass on to others. There's multiple menu items available on this DVD, including testimony from former government scientists, physicians, pilots, Union of Concerned Scientists, etc., about the lethal dangers posed by the ongoing climate engineering insanity.
It is climate engineering.
Northern California so-called media.
Legalizing the pollution, legalizing the climate change, legalizing
their priorities clear. The latest story of mass and meaningless
global warming, ethnic cleansing, displacement, free market economy.
But when these two
It is
ideas-
climate
and I need to
engineering in the best interest
when these
of
sources
free market
any
economy.
objective coverage of the August anti-climate engineering event right in the heart of Reading, an event with over 1,000 in attendance, some from all over the country, with former government scientists, prominent physicians, former defense industry, other experts, all of which were trying to sound the alarm on very real and verifiable threats from climate engineering. Threats that affect every one of us in countless ways. What kind of media do we have that would completely avoid any objective coverage of that issue? In the case of the Record Searchlight newspaper, editor Silas Lyons made it clear in writing that he feels he has the right to censor the news from his readers. The Searchlight completely blacked out the extremely important climate engineering awareness event in Reading. Yet, the Searchlight feels that Bigfoot warrants headline coverage. This kind of idiocy will continue as long as the public allows it and supports pitiful publications like the Record Searchlight. Unfortunately, KRCR was running a close second, as they truly did no objective coverage other than a short soundbite that was not in context of that all-important event. So again, headline from the Searchlight: Bigfoot investigation, as if that's what we really need to know at this time with all that's happening on planet Earth. Encouraging readers to draw their own conclusions from the evidence and arguments, our biosphere is imploding. The oceans are dying. Dozens of countries around the globe are descending into chaos. We're headed toward World War III. Northern California media is focused on, again, Bigfoot. So-called journalists that are helping to hide the crimes of our government, like the climate engineering assault, should be considered accessories to such crimes. Once the public's fully awakened, it's likely that, or hopefully, Nuremberg-type trials will be conducted if society is still intact, because things are disintegrating much faster than people understand at this point. It will become clear enough soon. Some other mainstream media headlines from the likes of Fox, MSNBC, and CNN. Birthday cake, only 4 of these, but I want to read this just to make the point. Birthday cake photo goes viral. Again, with everything I just named that's happening. We have our local media covering Bigfoot. We have mainstream media covering birthday cake photo goes viral. The slow crawl to designer babies. Porn star accused of rape assault. And finally, what makes a Christmas song good? Wow, how important is that? In Northern California, we continue to get completely engineered weather, a droughting out of the already drought-stricken region. We don't get storms like we did in the past, and it's astounding that so few people notice the amorphous sky, a featureless sky, very little wind, very little clear sunshine ever. It's always hazed out with what our local media people and other meteorologists.
It is exactly happening in India in this geopolitics across the.
In the meantime, everything dries up. Wake up, look up, do some investigation, find out what's really happening around the globe while our mainstream media is covering Bigfoot. Another mass shooting, this time in Southern California. This is certainly a horrible tragedy.
It is a scam. This video would say how the Paris conference was a scam.
Okay, we're just going to do
Paris climate talks a scam.
Now here's our lovely forecast. They're telling us right now that we have 74% chance of rain, and then of course in an hour 86%. Okay, now let's go and slide up. I know it's going to be joking. Okay, hold on. We're going to slide up. I want you to look at the Doppler. Now look at the Doppler. Okay? Look at this. Does that look natural? Anybody in their right mind? But you know, the Paris climate meeting, they didn't want to discuss the HAARP downburst and the damage that's going on to the ozone. They didn't want to talk about weather warfare. I mean, they completely avoided it, and yet you're telling me that's not HAARP usage? We have a HAARP substation about a half a mile away here in Sitka. So, I mean, come on. How much bullshit and bogus are the Paris Conference? Okay? This is December 14th, 2015. The meeting is over, and wow, do we see a change? No, we don't see a change. Still HARP usage every day going on. Okay, people? You better wake up. Because this is what's going on. That's why the Climate Paris meeting is part of the New World Order. It's all about setting up smart cities, camps of enslavement. Okay? That's what's going on. Nobody's going to stop the damage from geoengineering. I don't see any change. Zero. Zero change. Alright? So what good are the Paris climate talks if we're not going to discuss geoengineering, the damage that it's doing to the ozone, and the whole environment, and how we're shifting the jet stream and everything else? Do you see the fraud behind the Paris climate talks? Can you see that? Come on, wake up. Nothing's changed. They're not addressing it. Okay. Each time they do a HARP downburst, they are punching holes in the ozone. And when the deadly UV rays come through, they know that. Okay? And nobody's stopping it. There's zero effort to stop what they're doing. This is what they're doing. December 14th, 2015, after the Paris climate meetings. What
it is fraud, it is a scam, it is climate engineering, and now I have to say the Huffington Post, legendary climate, this is Huffington Post. Huffington Post writes, legendary climate scientist is not impressed with the Paris talks. We have been weaving cemented hubs all over the embroidered quilt of environment, killing the biocycle and saving the tiger, burning the mangrove. And it is climate engineering to legalize the pollution, legalize the ethnic cleansing, legalize the free flow of foreign capital across the globe without any legislation to sustain life, to save nature, to save humanity. I am trying to get this video by Huffington Post. If I get it, just
we
see.
have accomplished a lot here, and I have high hopes that over the next 2 weeks we'll accomplish even more.
The accord emerging from the Paris Conference is the first deal committing all countries in the world to take action against climate change. It is called, it is
The
claimed.
reason is because this one trend, climate change, affects all trends. If we let the world keep warming as fast as it is, and sea levels rising as fast as they are, and weather patterns keep shifting in more unexpected ways, then before long we are going to have to devote more and more and more of our economic and military resources not to growing opportunity for our people, but to adapting to the various consequences of a changing planet.
The developed world is not going to sacrifice its interests for the developing and underdeveloped countries, mind you.
There's a problematic paradox in modern healthcare. A lack of access to basic preventive treatment in some communities and overstocked waiting rooms in others. And regardless of which side of the spectrum you're on, there's a heavy financial burden and bureaucratic bloat that complicate matters. One doctor in Toronto...
Global leaders may have approved a historic climate change agreement in Paris, but James Hansen...
Personalized care and streamlined access. I'm Ryan Duffy, and this is Now One.
I am reading from Huffington Post. Global leaders may have approved the historical climate change agreement in Paris, but James Hansen, a former NASA scientist and pioneer of climate science, says it won't matter. Hansen told The Guardian in an interview published Saturday before the deal was finalized that absent of commitment to tax greenhouse gases, any accord is just a vehicle for empty promises. It is a fraud, really a fake, Hansen said. It is a fraud, really a fake. It is a fraud, really a fake, Hansen said. It is just bullshit for them to say we will have a 2 degrees Celsius warming target and then try to do a little better every 5 years. It is just worthless words. There is no action, just promises. There is no action, just promises. As long as fossil fuels appear to be the cheapest fuels out there, they will be continued to be burned. The Obama administration believes that getting 190 nations to reach an agreement is essential. First step arguing the provisions of the accord can be extended afterwards. It is ad hoc.
Is the Dominican Republic. Aside from the inconsistencies in the quality of care, there are also large portions of the population that simply don't have access to doctors.
Okay. Now, an acclaimed journalist says UN climate conference a fraud. Join the resistance.
2010
Alex Jones.
Prize for online journalism, jamesdillingcole.com is his website. He joins us at the bottom of the hour, but I'm going to open the phones up again on world events for people. He is covering right now the craziness going on in Paris, France for the next week or so. And that is the biggest gathering of world leaders ever. It's being billed. Lord Moncton's on, tomorrow, breaking this down with us. We have some other big guests tomorrow. I'm just going to leave that at that. And they're literally $1,000 a plate caviar dinners, taxpayer paid for, jumbo jets, Israeli surveillance blimps, red carpets, and they're up there saying, we saved you from the terrorists, now pass global government to deal with them. So they're conflating the terror attacks that they helped happen by bringing the refugees in and advertising it. The world for jihadis to come in. They're almost all...
The refugee influx is caused by the war, the oil war.
The attack.
And they are fighting against terrorism. It is war against terrorism, and it is ethnic cleansing, and they want to legalize the ethnic cleansing. It is all about the climate discourse.
Climate change. Notice it's climate change now the last few years, not global warming. And the thing is, it's so over the top what totalitarians they are. They're arresting conservative leaders in France that criticize open borders, who lead in presidential polls like Marine Le Pen, while with straight faces basically declaring civil emergency. So the left has openly become flaming tyrants. The right wing worldwide, I guess, either works with them or is scared of them. James Dillingpole joins us. What's going on with these people? Is it that they realize their constituents now support totalitarianism? What is the left going for? Because they really seem to be in a death orgy right now, trying to bring down the West in some bizarre temper tantrum that is discrediting them, but they don't seem to care. What's going on? Or do you think my analysis that they've gone completely insane is wrong?
No, they haven't gone insane. They were always insane. I don't know whether you're familiar with the name Maurice Strong, the Canadian One World Government guy. He died a couple of days ago, and it passed almost unnoticed by the world's media. But I would argue that that man is one of the most dangerous men of the 20th century, because he was the guy who started he set the ball rolling with the Rio Earth Summit in 1992. That was the first big global climate summit, and you remember all the world leaders flew over there, and they signed up for this thing called Agenda 21.
Just understand the phenomenon of the fraud, the scam, what is called the discourse on climate change, the summit on climate change governed by United States of America in the best interest of the developed nations.
But they are caught in this system which steers the world inexorably towards one world government. You think of all the different branches of the United Nations, from the United Nations Environment Programme, the World Health Organization, etc., etc. All these things use environmentalism as a way of increasing the global bureaucratic control of the United Nations and similar bodies. So that is ultimately what it's about. It's got really very little to do with saving the planet. It's certainly got nothing to do with the science. The science and the global warming movement parted company a very long time ago.
And by the way, I agree with your piercing analysis. Every generation looks back at the last generation, Stalin, Hitler, Mao, and thinks crazy-eyed megalomaniacs rubbing their hands together on power trips belong to the last generation, and then we don't recognize our new crazed tyrants until we're halfway into the wood chipper.
That's absolutely it. I think that because we've been programmed to think that that evil men must wear jackboots, or they've got scars down their faces, or they've got white furry caps on their laps, we forget that a lot of the most dangerous people in the world really want to do the right thing. I mean, I'm sure if you'd met Maurice Strong, I never did, but if you'd met him, I'm sure you'd have found him personally very charming.
No, he was a true believer. He thought they were saving the earth, but of course putting themselves in power.
Exactly, and I mean, you look at, I don't know whether you've ever seen a Nature TV documentary with David Attenborough. He does BBC documentaries about polar bears and things. And he's a very well-loved figure, and he's a very, very nice man with a lovely, soft, whispery voice. But the problem is that some of the stuff he believes is really quite dangerous. That he believes that there are too many humans on the planet, and that this is something...
Too many humans on the planet. It is the concept, and they want depopulation. Depopulation is the agenda of the global order, and depopulation is the agenda of the governance of fascism, the business-friendly governance in India.
Amen, bro. I'm certainly with you on that one. You do not want unelected bureaucratic elite who tend to swing left, unfortunately, anyway. I don't want these guys telling me what to do. I'd like to live my own life, thank you, free of that constraint.
Well, plus they're such hypocrites. They have the biggest carbon footprints. They live like gods and beyond kings. And then they're telling the Africans you can't have air conditioning in your car. How about we're going to develop, high-tech cars and air conditioners for you? I mean, it's just such an arrogance.
It's an elite club. You look, for example, at one of the biggest charitable organizations in America, one of the most powerful. I think one of the most dangerous, the Nature Conservancy. Ted Turner, one of the richest men in America, he has brought up swathes of the American landscape.
It is American plan, mind you.
It can never be developed for anything. It can never be used.
Legislation of pollution, legislation of climate change legislation of global warming, and this climate engineering is an American agenda, mind you, which is once again a Hindutva agenda in India.
Well, I'm sorry, I think they're even.
Thus, Javadekar represented India.
I've been tracking this mega summit that they're billing is bigger than the Agenda 21 conference that Strong put on in '92. Is that hype, or is this a big power grab?
This is just, look, Paris in 2015 is the same as Cancun and whenever it was, 2011 and
Paris 2015 is a fraud, a scam, climate engineering.
On these jaunts. And the world leaders fly out in their private jets and the entourage flies out and they all arrive by limo and they build up these massive carbon footprints and it becomes almost an end in itself. The elephant in the room, the reason that there will be no really binding agreement is China. China is the world's biggest producer of carbon dioxide. I mean, its industry is massive, and the Chinese have no intention whatsoever.
Chinese have no intention whatsoever to reduce the carbon emission.
And now enters India. They're telling India, though, you've got to make cuts, but China doesn't, and India's saying that's discriminatory. That's the whole point of this, isn't it? Picking winners and losers.
Well, yeah, the Indians aren't going to bite either. And this is the other
The Indian point.
We in the West imagine that we call the shots. We don't anymore. India and China do. The developing world do. And they're... So you're going to see this massive clash between I suppose the East and the West, and it's one
massive clash between East and West, mind you.
They'll play along with the green stuff if they think they're going to get some money out of it. But behind the closed doors, they're going to carry on mining that coal and belching out that carbon dioxide and giving their people an improved standard of living. And why not?
Well, that's what frustrates me about India and China is they won't put in the clean plants. Then we put in plants so clean that nothing bad comes out but carbon dioxide and water. They list it as toxic waste and then just shut our plants down, suiciding the UK steel industry, suiciding ours. This is crazy.
Well, everything you say there is perfectly true, but you've got to remember that the Chinese industry is pretty much in the dark ages relative to Western industry. They haven't got the same technologies as us. They haven't got the same... But this is what you get when you have a sort of communist state. You don't get technological leap. You don't get entrepreneurs devising clever new methods. All the Chinese technology is either bought from the West or stolen from the West. And there's still they still have to use far more energy to produce less.
China can't even build SAM missiles that work.
No, this is what Chinese are like. So it would be naive for us to listen to the Chinese when they it would be naive for us to listen to Greenpeace when Greenpeace tells us about how green China is and how keen China is
to
greenify its economy. China does not give a toss about being green.
I mean, look at how the radical socialists are combining forces.
I am happy that the Sunday Economic Times has focused on Chennai floods. I would be sharing the key points raised in this issue in my video talk today. I have
for folks to know about this global government Save the World Climate Summit, and then also what do you make of the waves of migrants?
Why it has published an article, Time to Clear the Air, why the government needs to stop waiting for the Supreme Court to act and do something about what is a national and not just Delhi's issues. Gopal Shankar Narayan writes, as the climate change talks wound up in Paris last week, there seemed to be a deep sense of optimism at the promises made by the developed world. Whether these will be fulfilled, only time will tell. But while much has been made of the lack of responsibility of the Western world to its substantial role in adding to the world's emission, there seems to be little attempt at introspection, especially from India, which is home to 13 of the 20 most polluted cities in the world. In the early part of 2014, when the World Health Organization WHO reported
what do you think
that
the main motive is of Merkel and Hollande and Obama to want to bring in unlimited amounts of immigrants?
I think that it's not, they haven't even thought it through. I genuinely think they haven't thought it through. I think it's because...
That is the expert opinion. And I am reading from it. In the early part of 2014, when the World Health Organization, WHO, reported that Delhi had replaced Beijing as the most polluted city in the world, the reaction of the central government was predictable. Like one in a bad relationship, first there was denial, there is not true that some readings have been taken at the wrong places, said others. Then came the accusation. This is an exact driven paranoia, said the Hawks, with some even murmuring Central Intelligence Agency CIA. Eventually it took over a year for Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar in yearly, and he is the man from Marxist, from Nagpur. In early August to admit that there was a problem and to state the clean air was a human right, one would have imagined the once the issue is admitted, action would follow. And in China, the bottles of clean air is on sale, and we will get the clean water bottles in India very soon.
It's like worrying about boogeymen statistically. It's total mental illness.
Sunday it has also published an article on 7th Pay Commission. Why implementation the 7th Commission recommendation is a Herculean challenge. I have already discussed it. And then Air India's turnaround should happen not later than 2018 and 19. It is turned around all the way, you know.
We've been turned into griping sissies that just fight with each other.
Why Chennai got submerged? And in November, Madras High Court order attributes the recent flood to encroachment on the city water bodies and courses which reduce their flood stirring and carrying capacity. We have discussed it. Just see this cover story. And I hope
I agree. It was Victor Hugo that said prosperity basically makes monsters, adversity makes men.
It is available on a stand.
You can't walk once you get there. I think we've had it so good that we've just turned into jellyfish, and this is just a natural cycle.
I fear so.
It is the story.
The final down wave. I hope that, I mean, there have always been periods of history where people have needed to be forcibly reminded
it is the story.
Civilization is worth fighting for.
And it is the story.
We spent over a year trying to put together something for somebody, for everybody, especially working with Alex and the team over here at InfoWars Live, to create a product that would focus
Media reports claim amidst demonstrations and campaign at the COP21 venue by activists, the multilateral issue that has gone to the wire is differentiation, the part of agreement that will make obligations heavier for the developed world to both cut emissions and fund the developed countries and give lighter responsibility to developing nations. It is fraud, it is a scam.
That nobody in the world has. One of the most amazing ingredients in the world, and it's called shilajit, and it's actually known as blood of the mountain or rock sweat because thousands of years ago, as a matter of fact, this ingredient was only given to the elite of the elite. Thousands of years ago, up in the Himalayan mountains and in Tibet.
And we wanted to put this in stuff for a couple.
And now, Nobel laureate smashes the global warming hoax. Just look. Now, it is Noam
The Chamber of Commerce, the main business lobby, the American petroleum industry, other business lobbies have publicly...
Peak oil and a changing climate, Noam Chomsky. Political activist, MIT professor, author, numerous best-selling political works, Chomsky Info.
And it's succeeded, unfortunately. The latest polls I've seen show maybe a third of the population believes in anthropogenic global warming. The media contribute in their own way. So, for example, in the New York Times, it runs a front-page article on what meteorologists...
It is happening in India also.
Namely, they don't believe it. Meteorologists are pretty faces who read scripts telling you if it's going to rain tomorrow. What do they have to say any more than your barber? But that's presented as if it's a significant contribution to the discussion. The same when they, in pursuit of the fabled objectivity, present two sides. One side is 98% of scientists who know anything. The other side is Senator Inhofe and a couple of stragglers, and that's the two sides. And people are supposed to make a choice between them. They leave out a third side, which is the substantial number of climate scientists who believe that the consensus predictions are much too optimistic, including some of the leading scientists right here who've recently run what they call the most extensive modeling ever done that concludes that it's far worse than anticipated, and that their own results are an understatement because they don't take into account such things as effects of methane after permafrost disappears and so on. So that's the debate that people are presented with, and it's not surprising that the effort to manufacture consent to the belief that doesn't mean anything is pretty successful. But what's rather interesting about this, and tells you something about the nature of our society, is that those same CEOs and managers who are trying to convince the public that it's a liberal hoax know perfectly well that it's extremely dangerous. They have the same beliefs that you and I have. So they're caught in a kind of an institutional contradiction. As leaders of major corporations, they have an institutional role, and that is to maximize short-term profit. And if they don't do that, they're out, and someone else is in who does do it. So it's basically, institutionally speaking, it's not a choice. That's going to happen in the major institutions. So they may know that they're mortgaging the future of their grandchildren, and in fact, maybe everything they own will be destroyed, but they're caught in a trap of institutional structure. That's what happens in market systems. The financial crisis is a small example of the same thing. You may know that what you're doing carries systemic risk, but you can't calculate that into your transactions, or you're not fulfilling your role and somebody else replaces you. In fact, in the United States, it's actually a legal obligation to do that for corporate executives. So, and that's a very serious problem. it for institutional reasons that are pretty hard to dismantle. There's other factors like the anger and fear and hostility in the country about everything carries over to this. So if you look at polls, everyone hates Congress, they hate the Democrats, they hate the Republicans even more, they hate big business, they hate banks, and they distrust scientists. So why should we believe what these pointy-headed elitists are telling us? We don't trust anything else, we don't trust them. All of this combines. The latest election a couple of days ago is you can almost interpret it as a kind of a death knell for the species. There was an article in Bloomberg Business Week, not a radical rag exactly, that rang through the new Republicans coming to Congress, and they're worried about them. One of the reasons is because they are global warming deniers, almost all. That means the powerful House committees, like science and technology and so on, are going in the hands of people who think there's nothing to it, or at least claim that they think that. What they actually think is another story. In fact, one of them was quoted as saying, "Can't be a problem because God will take care of it." Now, if this was happening in some small country, and maybe I don't know what, Monaco or something, it wouldn't matter much. But when it's happening in the richest, most powerful country in the world, it's a danger to the survival of the species. Nobody else is going to do very much if the United States doesn't do a lot, not just some, but take the lead. So we're essentially saying, let's kiss each other goodbye. There are plenty of examples.
Now, what is the, we remember the Bhopal gas tragedy, and it is our concern of climate change. It is the ground zero reality in India. This business-friendly government defends the criminals of the criminal crime against humanity.
Welcome to Bhopal, free guide.
It is free market economy.
It's about the jobs. India was open for business, and I wanted carbide at the heart of the revolution. An idealist and a chairman. It's a tough market to corner.
I'm not going to bullshit you. We're going through a very hard time, and we have limited resources.
It is about Bhopal gas tragedy, and it is our ground zero reality about our concern about global warming
So why did they choose Bhopal?
Cheap government land, subsidized water and electricity, they're all milking this cash cow together. Cheers.
One drop of your stuff killed her husband. Your factory is choking this town.
This factory feeds this town. I'm going to cut right now, so that they don't get that yet.
MIC was leaking, and mind you, MIC leak continues even today.
United in our efforts to build a better
formulation of a chemical some of us in Union Carbide call liquid dynamite.
This is the story of the world's most devastating industrial disaster.
Should we believe the political leaders who happen to be the lawyer of Anderson, Union Carbide and Dow Chemicals, and the contamination continues, and we have opted for Fukushima, and Mumbai will have the clusters of nuclear plants, 6 nuclear plants, Chennai, Delhi, and even Kolkata. Every metro is surrounded by nuclear plants, and the governance of fascism, the business-friendly governance, is engaged to bail out the nuclear industry owned by United States of America and endangered nuclear industry in Japan after the Fukushima incident, and endangered nuclear industry of Russia, which was inflicted with Chernobyl leakage. How do we believe that they will be concerned and they will be caring for climate change, global warming, nature and humanity? It is false, it is a scam, it is fraud, and it is climate engineering.
What do these people do, Google? Everything from metals, chemicals, antifreeze, batteries, you know those ever-ready batteries?
Oh, yes.
But what are they doing in Union Carbide? Well, he says to get a little American know-how to India.
Union Carbide are a great American corporation, and in the 60s and 70s they promoted a dream to make pesticides that would protect crops and help feed the world's hungry millions.
It was green revolution, and it is now the climate change, global warming. This is the funda. It is the multinational funda. It is the free market economy.
To manufacture the pesticide, Union Carbide first have to produce the main ingredient, a chemical called methyl isocyanate, or MIC. Bhopal will be home to a giant new factory to make MIC. Union Carbide are so excited that their corporation's chairman, Warren Anderson, visits India to officially open the plant. It's a massive investment for the company. American and Indian engineers work together to make it state-of-the-art. As the factory's medical officer, Kumkum Saxena is part of this beacon of scientific enterprise.
When I got the job, I just thought that this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I did feel this is a Carbide family, and we were also proud to be Carbiders.
Part of Kumkum's job is to understand the chemicals her fellow Carbiders handle. She has toxicology reports sent from the company's American headquarters.
This Bhopal phenomenon is enough to expose the climate engineering.
There is a dark side to the dream.
It is a BBC report, mind you.
It's one of the most toxic and lethal substances known to man. people of Bhopal, many of whom live in poverty, Union Carbide
The people of Bhopal were subjected for this pesticide engineering, and we, the Indian people, we, the taxpayers, we, the 99% of Indian demography are subjected to this climate engineering and it has the agenda of depopulation, ethnic cleansing, economic ethnic cleansing. It is all the way economic ethnic cleansing.
I was happy. We had a lovely home, the children went to school, and I would look after the house. It was a good time.
All right. This is the formulation of a chemical some of us in Union Carbide call liquid dynamite.
I think it is enough.
Methyl isocyanate, sir. MIC. Indeed. And what do we know of its stability? Sir, when cool, fine. But when heated, very dangerous. And what's the most dangerous way of heating it? When in contact with water, sir. Correct. Its reaction when in contact with water is especially...
And the flood in Chennai endangered the Kalpakkam nuclear plant. And luckily we had not to experience yet another Chernobyl or yet another Fukushima. But we have opted for Fukushima as Indo-US nuclear deal is implemented, and we have nuclear deals with every other developed nation. The latest is Indo-Japanese nuclear deal.
We could deal with it.
In Union Carbide corporate speak, safety and profit go hand in hand.
Good business practice requires the establishing of goals aimed at reducing personnel injuries and the minimization of monetary...
It is the corporate document by Union Carbide which is being quoted. Hamida Hospital, December 1981.
There is an ominous sign of things to come. A small leak of phosgene gas is inhaled by maintenance worker Ashraf Khan. Kumkum rushes into hospital. With them is Ashraf's close friend Chand.
It was Bhopal.
It's Ashraf. He died. It was a gas leak. It was all his fault. You see.
It is the truth about the discourse of climate change, the discourse of global
I want you to get another job.
warming,
More careful.
and it is a scam, it is fraud.
That place is dangerous. We argued. I wanted him to leave his job. He said he would, but then said he didn't know how we'd cope. I said we'd manage, but I couldn't persuade him to leave.
It is the destiny, we are predestined. It is the karma phal. It is Manusmriti rule all the way. It is racist apartheid. It is caste system that inflicts us thousands and thousands and even lakhs identities. We are divided in, and the political leadership is business friendly. It divides the nation, and it is the agent of multinational capital, foreign capital, and India is on sale, and we are talking about climate change, we are talking about global warming, and Paris summit is hyped so much so. And it is the ground reality. Have a look into.
These people lived in such close proximity to a chemical plant. I thought it was a perfect setting for a disaster.
Perfect setting for disaster. It is intact. Perfect setting for disaster. It is intact till this day, and it is enhanced. It is streamlined with nuclear energy, and we are talking about climate change. And Prakash Javadekar, the RSS man, is the face of India.
Many people who worked at the factory, we were always in and out of there.
Despite their connections with the factory, Shahid and his family know nothing about its hazardous chemicals. They believe neon carbide makes medicine for plants, the Hindi translation of the word pesticide.
Now see this discourse. Should we kill the mangroves? It is being killed.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Harkness, and we're here at Tyre Park today, and I'm going to tell you about my fertile question: should we kill the mangroves?
We are saving the tigers, but we are killing the mangrove.
How they breathe. These little knobbly things.
What an irony! The mangrove is being killed. The core areas are going to be made in luxury resorts, and we are saving the tiger.
Mangroves like to live where the salt water meets fresh water, so there is a prime condition for mangroves to grow. That's why there's so many out here. Behind me is the Tauranga Harbour, and with all the mangroves growing at this rate, soon there won't be any more harbour, there'll just be all mangroves. The mangroves can breathe and grow in salt water, because in their little special leaves they can filter out all the salt, so in the summertime there's lots of salt all over the leaves. And they're spread, they grow on these little things here, and they come out of the ground, and they land in the water, and they should float to some other bands in front. I read them why they're so bad is they're overpopulating. It's mangroves there, and they never used to be there. So this is another reason why we should kill them. Mangroves growing so fast is
these are the videos all about Sundarban. And I would be sharing the links only now. Nature and life, endangered wildlife in Sundarban.
প্রকৃতি ও জীবন অনুষ্ঠানে আপনাদের সবাইকে স্বাগতম। বাংলাদেশের জীববৈচিত্র্য, প্রকৃতি ও পরিবেশের নানা বিষয় নিয়ে আমাদের এই অনুষ্ঠান প্রকৃতি ও জীবন। আমাদের জীবন আর প্রকৃতি একে অপরের সাথে গভীরভাবে জড়িত। এর নদ-নদী, জলবায়ু, গাছপালা, প্রাণী আমাদের সাথে সম্পর্ক, সচেতনতা ও করণীয় তুলে ধরতে আমাদের এই অনুষ্ঠান। সুন্দরবন আমাদের ঐতিহ্য। বন্যপ্রাণীর অবাধ বিচরণের এই বন প্রাকৃতিক সম্পদে সমৃদ্ধ হয়েছে। আর এই কারণেই ইউনেস্কো আমাদের সুন্দরবনকে বিশ্ব ঐতিহ্য ঘোষণা করেছে। কিন্তু মানব সৃষ্ট ও প্রাকৃতিক বিভিন্ন কারণে বনের বেশ কিছু প্রাণী আজ বিপন্ন। আমাদের আজকের এই পর্ব সুন্দরবনের বিপন্ন বন্যপ্রাণী নিয়ে। এ বিষয়ে আলোচনা করব জনাব আকবর হোসেনের সাথে। তবে তার আগে চলুন দেখে আসি প্রকৃতি ও জীবন দলের সুন্দরবনের বিপন্ন বন্যপ্রাণী নিয়ে কিছু তথ্য ও চিত্র।
Endangered wildlife in Sundarban. It is from Bangladesh.
সুন্দরবন পৃথিবীর বৃহত্তম একক ম্যানগ্রোভ বন।
We are killing the Sundarbans.
এই বনের প্রায় 60% বাংলাদেশে বিস্তৃত। শাখা প্রশাখার মতো ছড়িয়ে ছিটিয়ে থাকা অসংখ্য নদী আর খালে পরিপূর্ণ সুন্দরবন প্রতিবেদ ব্যবস্থা। নিয়মিত জোয়ার ভাটার কারণে বনের স্থলভাগ সর্বদাই আর্দ্র থাকে। ফলে বৈচিত্র্যময় উদ্ভিদ ও প্রাণীর সমাহারে সুন্দরবন এক স্বতন্ত্র প্রতিবেদ ব্যবস্থায় পরিণত হয়েছে। সমৃদ্ধ হয়েছে বন্যপ্রাণী সম্পদে। আর এজন্যই সুন্দরবন আজ বিশ্ব ঐতিহ্য।
We are killing the world heritage. Okay. We are the time crunch now. It is Tehri Dam in Uttarakhand. We submerged the Tehri town.
मैडम ये देखो ये अच्छा है ना, बहुत अच्छा
we,
है। हिंदी बोलते हैं।
we have to bear with these ads. It is always disturbing, and we should wait how long it takes.
इंडिया शेयर करेगा, इंडिया केयर करेगा। आइडिया इजी शेयर। व्हाट एन आइडिया।
And it is Tehri Dam in Uttarakhand, with submerged Terry town. The sound is missing, but look at the vocal scenario, and I hope that we should get the sound. It is the Terry Dam. Better we should get another which would it is a new Terry Dam.
मानव शरीर में जो शक्ति है ऊर्जा
Again it is
इतनी अद्भुत है तो क्यों ना उस शक्ति का इस्तेमाल करके बिजली बनाई
It is new Terry, the replaced demography of old Terry. It is the new Terry. Live video of opened floodgates of Terry Dam in Uttarakhand. This is the floodgate. And now, if I get no, not like that. We should go just to worst dam collapses in world. We should have the idea how it is man-made disaster.
At 8:30 on Saturday morning, June 5th, two major leaks were reported. One along the right embankment about 130 feet from the top, and another larger leak on the downstream toe of the dam. At 10 o'clock, one more large leak developed near the top. Crews working with bulldozers tried to plug the leaks. Suddenly, the drivers leaped to safety. The widening hole opened and swallowed the machines. There was nothing more to do. Lynn Schwindeman and his wife, who had been on the observation point, raced down the canyon ahead of the water, warning residents in the houses near the mouth of the Teton Canyon. The flood caught two fishermen unprepared. Darrell Griggs and David Benson were fishing on the Teton River just below the canyon. The swirling edge of the flood, full of debris, caught them. Griggs was jammed into a pile of logs and pinned against a tree. With a collapsed lung and broken ribs, he painfully climbed the tree, only to wait fearfully for it to break and sweep him away.
Now, the latest disaster, man-made disaster. in Kathmandu.
तपाईँ देख्नु काठमाडौँ भर्खर एउटा एकदमै धक्कापूर्ण भूकम्प गएको छ है त्यसले पशुपति क्षेत्रमा भएको विभिन्न घरहरू ध्वस्त पारेको छ र हेर्न सक्छौँ हामी सबैजना हेर्न सक्छौँ मान्छे यहाँनिर त्रास भएको छन् हेर्न सक्छौँ बाइकहरू लडिरहेको छन् त्यहाँनिर
Quick look at Nepal earthquake. It was the earthquake. Look at the rush, the stampede-like situation. It is, I don't get the sound. I am not getting the sound, that's the problem. Not getting the sound. If I get it, hoping. It is the ground zero reality of climate change, ground zero reality of climate engineering, ground zero reality of legislation in the best interest of foreign capital and free market economy. It is the ground zero. It was live. No, I have to